Directing traffic, gonna go deep, has a man deep, it is caught for the touchdown, Corey Davis!
What does he do? Attacks leverage. If he's outside leverage, he doesn't want you to beat him outside. So stem towards him, hold him outside, stab outside. Drive face, full cell vertical, get into the blind spot, and he absolutely burns it. Corner is lost. He literally has no idea where Wilson is.
Long, fast, how he approaches the game, how dedicated he is to football. He's ridiculously good, man. You have to be ecstatic.
This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
And you are listening/watching to another edition of Blitz. Every time I watch the intro, I realize that I have to change it or get somebody else to change it because it features Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, Laken Tomlinson, who hopefully all four could maybe rebound and maybe be a big part of the Jets in the future. But I gotta change that because nobody wants to see Zach Wilson highlights or Laken Tomlinson at this point, who claims to be a Pro Bowl guard. Obviously solo, which I think I'm going to keep on this type of schedule. Wednesdays solo, Thursdays with Kyle, just to kind of reach new audiences. I know that people who are available on Wednesday night aren't available on Thursday, and vice versa. So I might keep it the same. It's just been working out a little bit with me doing the solos on Wednesday nights, but I'm gonna do it until about we'll see. We'll see how many people are in here, how much people want to talk about some of the quarterback stuff. Obviously, some news trickling out and some kind of stupid things, to be completely honest, that we're talking about on Twitter, from Aaron Rodgers to a little bit more Lamar Jackson rumors, how far they are apart on the contract, which was really reported months and months and months ago. I didn't really see a new report, but it kind of got resurfaced. So we'll talk about that a little bit if you guys want. Derek Carr obviously is visiting probably right now with the New Orleans Saints, so we could talk about that. Hit the chat, obviously, quite a bit, but 7:30 is the cutoff point. That's the latest I'm doing until it's 8:30. I'm talking to you guys. NY Jet Superfan, what's up? Hello, boys. The QB waiting stressing me out. Of course it is, and a lot of people are fighting. Which obviously, again, it's Rodgers versus Carr. I'm not going to get into my whole thought process of that right now. I'm okay with Rodgers. If you're telling me in a vacuum I can have Rodgers, okay, awesome. But it's not that simple, is it? So it's stressful because of the timeline. You have Carr, who's visiting with the Saints right now, while Aaron Rodgers is 2-3 weeks away, or a week away, or 5 days away, whatever it is, from going into darkness isolation for 3-4 days, whatever it is, and you don't know if he's going to want to play football. So the timelines are kind of forcing the Jets' hand, or what I think should be forcing the Jets' hand in terms of who their quarterback is going to be. Just because, again, I like Rodgers as option A. Sure, Carr's option B, but it doesn't really work out like that, because if you miss out on option A, option B is gone. And then we're talking about Tannehill's, Jimmy Garoppolo's of the world, which I just do not want to have to endure for the next year or two, whatever it may be. Honestly, at that point, I know it's not going to happen. To me, again, completely unrealistic, but this is just like the fandom talking and taking a shot. I'd rather trade up to the top 5 in the draft than be looking at like Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't want to do that. But I know that's not going to happen, so it's not even really a talking point. But just me, I'm willing to give up multiple picks to go up that high. But again, it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. Into darkness in 1 minute. I know it's a minute or two late. What's up, Mike? Rodgers is trying to be molded by the darkness. And again, I don't really care what he does. Like, I don't give a shit if he likes to sit in darkness. I don't care if he likes to do ayahuasca. I don't care if he smokes weed. I don't care if he's into some weird sexual fetish, as long as it's legal. If he's a good quarterback for the Jets, he's a good quarterback for the Jets. But the problem is the delaying. It's the delaying of the decision. Is it going to happen in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months? I don't know. And you can't guarantee he's going to want to play football. And I'm 90. I could say based on what I've heard and what I've seen from him, I'm 90% sure he'll play football next year. And I even think there's a greater chance than not that he's traded from the Packers, which I know people assume, but it's not. You obviously shouldn't just assume that. But I do think he will get traded from the Packers. But is it the Raiders? Is it the Jets? I don't know. But yeah, I'm not really into. I don't really care what he does in his off time as long as it's legal. I know there are people who's going to compare him to Deshaun Watson now, because I say I don't care that he does ayahuasca or sits in the dark, saying I should hang out in a room with those guys, because apparently me talking about that lumps me in with Deshaun Watson. But nonetheless, that's the YouTube streets. But yeah, it's just the delaying of the decision, and past that, okay, you play them. Let's say the Jets go, 11-6 next year. We win a playoff game or two, hopefully the Super Bowl. But let's be somewhat conservative and say, okay, they get to the divisional round, the conference championship, which would be awesome. And then what's to say he doesn't retire? And then you just gave up a bunch of picks and you missed out on Derek Carr, who could be here for 5-6 years. I don't think if you get Derek Carr, you're looking to draft a quarterback this year, maybe even next year. But, maybe in the future you develop a guy. I'm not opposed to some of the guys who think in line are in the line of thinking of, draft a quarterback every year and develop them and, flip them for picks, whatever you may do. But I don't think the Jets would be drafting a quarterback with Zach Wilson on the roster. I just can't see them paying, Derek Carr, let's just say it's Derek Carr, $37-40 million a year, whatever it's going to be. Zach Wilson, $9 million, and then drafting a quarterback, and having Zach Wilson and a rookie quarterback in the same quarterback room as Derek Carr. I just don't really see it as plausible. I think once Zach Wilson's gone, then maybe you draft the guy. But I don't see bringing another rookie while Zach Wilson's here, unless obviously something unforeseen happens, which could obviously. Andrew Hansen, appreciate you being here. Need a QB sign so we can start stressing out about O-line, linebacker, interior defensive line, safety. Yeah, offensive line's going to be interesting because does Dwayne Brown retire? Does he not retire? If he doesn't retire, it's going to be kind of hard to see out of the contract. Is Becton healthy? He seems to be healthy. He seems to be in shape, but obviously he hasn't really played in 2 years, and even his rookie year, he was out quite a bit. I know he might have started 12 games, whatever it was, but he came out of at least 2 or 3 of the games he started. Don't quote me. It might be 12, 13 games that he started, but he came out of at least 2 or 3 of those games. What's happened with him? Mitchell was okay relative to expectations, but what are expectations for a 4th-round rookie? He was okay. If we go into next year with our starting right tackle opening day being Max Mitchell, we have problems. Linebacker, you have pretty much nothing past. Let me try to move that little. Look, if I could blend that little scratch into the screen into my fan, maybe you guys won't notice it as much because I'm noticing it now. Look at that, you barely notice it now. But linebacker past Mosley, you really don't have much. And even with Mosley, it's a question because he's getting paid $21 million next year. I think if you designated a June 1st cut, you can save $17 million this year with $4 million dead and $4 million dead next year. If he doesn't renegotiate, I cannot justify paying him $17 million a year. Now, obviously, it's really 21, but 4 is dead. But still, $17 million a year for CJ Mosley. He's solid. He's good. But he's not $17 million a year. I would rather cut. I get he's a captain, all this stuff, whatever. But at the end of the day, $17 million is top tier linebacker, and he's not. He's good, but he's not top tier. I'd rather sign a mid-level guy for $9-10 million and use that $7 million on a safety. I'd rather have a decent linebacker, which is only slightly below what Mosley is at this point, and a solid safety for his price. I get the captain stuff, but it is what it is. It's the NFL. It's not, but he's a captain. He's a good guy. Okay, $21 million. Here you go. Who gives a fuck? It's just no way. Mike, every year this team makes me crazy. I don't know why I let it get to me 46. Yeah, it's because you're a diehard fan, Mike. Just like everybody in here. At this point, you're diehard. I'm sure you invest into the Jets, whether it be time, family parties, your wife, your significant other, whatever it may be, nagging at you. Oh, you don't have to watch. I fucking do. Yes, I do. I get it. I won't go to parties. I'll make sure I have my, downloading VPNs to watch in Italy and making sure I have time to watch in Italy. Luckily, when I was in Costa Rica, the last game of the year, I didn't really give a shit because who did at that point? I watched it, but it wasn't time sensitive or I needed to watch it at the exact moment. And I just watched it on broadcast. But nonetheless, yeah, we poured a lot into it, whether it be the time or the actual going to games, getting up. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We drive there, get in a bus at 6:30, get there at 7:45, wait in line. And then you're there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock when the game kicks off. The game's ended. And then I personally wait into the parking lot after. So you're talking about a 12, 13-hour day when you go to Jets games. And that's not even including going to Green Bay. That's not including going to Indy, going to Arizona, going to Buffalo, going all these trips to see them. And then we see the same shit every year. And listen, last year was exciting to me. Obviously, it was exciting to a lot of us. But at the same point, let's be realistic here. And I don't want to even say this, but did it not end the season like the same old Jets? Listen, it's, you lose 6 games in a row. You don't put up a touchdown for 3 straight games. You could barely score the last month, 2 months of the season. It was embarrassing, regardless of who the quarterback is, regardless of what the injuries were. the Jets played like absolute dog shit the last couple of weeks of the season, month. And it's not like same old Jets in terms of like, okay, it was Adam Gase and there's all this dysfunction and stuff, but you had offensive linemen, throwing their hands up after Zach Wilson's throwing some bad passes. You have receivers clearly frustrated. You have guys requesting trades. You have Mike LaFleur coming out and talking shit about a quarterback who he apparently had rated higher than Trevor Lawrence, whatever that whole story was. I don't know if it's true, but didn't look great. I know we're in the moment, so we want to be positive, but at the end of the day, the end of last year really, really sucked, right? So I would much rather have the Jets started off slow and hit a hot streak than started off really hot and looked like one of the bottom 2 to 3 teams in the NFL the last couple of weeks of the season, the last month of the season. It was embarrassing. So yeah, let's hope they turn around and we can actually win some freaking football games and be consistent. Maybe get a playoff game, get a home playoff game would be absurdly fun. Obviously, I would be there. That is for sure. Say Carr signing is imminent with Saints per Tom. Who I don't know who Tom Curran is. I think you might just be making that up. And I don't really trust a lot of sources, whether it be NFL rumors, Dov, Clayman, whatever the hell his name is. There's like 2 people I believe, and that's Rappaport and that's Schefter. I think like Mike Garafolo has some good sources sometimes. Like the Peter Kings, the Dovs of the world, the NFL rumors, the My Sports updates of the world. I couldn't care any less at this point. A lot of those guys, and even the bigger guys, the Ian Rappaports, the Adam Schefters, are used as, they're used by teams. Hey, this guy is visiting with this team. He really likes to sign with New Orleans, and then the Jets are, oh my God, holy shit, he's going to sign with New Orleans, and that ups our, trade price, whatever it may be, and that might be coming from the Raiders. Like I don't believe any of those guys. It's pretty stupid at this point to believe anything you hear. Just wait for the results. And obviously, I give into it sometimes too, but it's mostly like a joke. Like you hear Sauce Gardner say, he knows something about something. And I put out like a picture of him talking to Derek Carr at the Pro Bowl. Am I being serious that that's what he's talking about? No, not at all. But it's February 8th, February 7th. There's not really not much to talk about. So you got to keep up the Twitter game. Joe looking handsome, brother, much nicer, clean shaven. Yeah, it's I know people don't like the goatee because I do not have good facial hair, but at the end of the day, again, every day that I have that facial hair, we donate to I think it's testicular cancer might work, but I recognize I don't have good facial hair. What's up, Chris? What is up, Mike Leza? 3+ decades myself, man. We are stuck in quicksand. So it turns around, I will feel very, very much in that quicksand and even below that quicksand, getting buried inside quicksand. If it's Jimmy Garoppolo, if it's Gardner Minshew, if it's Jameis Winston, which let's be realistic. I'm not saying this about Gardner Minshew. Let's exit out of that conversation. But if you get Jimmy G, you get Tannehill, you get Jameis Winston. It's still, it's almost, it really sucks to say this, but it's true. It's the best quarterback we've had in almost a decade. Like we're talking about Jameis Winston coming here and being the best Jets quarterback since 2015 easily. It's absurd how bad we've been at that position. It's embarrassing. So if they land one of those guys, while it's a little bit better than what we've had in the past, it's with hoping the entire offseason it's Rodgers or Carr or obviously talking ourselves into Lamar Jackson, whatever it may be, to end up with Jameis Winston. I'm going to feel like I'm very, very much in that quicksand again. But they have the rope. They have the rope to get out of that quicksand. They're only ankle deep right now. And it's Rodgers. It's Carr. It's one of these guys. I'm starting to think we're not getting Carr or Rodgers. Of course, you play the field. Rodgers could retire. He could play for the Raiders. So I don't know if it's true, but the Raiders are betting favorites now. They're like -300 to get Rodgers. Now, is that based on Devontae Adams recruiting him and then being in Vegas and then Rodgers getting asked a question by a reporter as he's like golfing and saying, "Oh, we're hearing a lot about the Raiders." It's because they're in Las Vegas. But past that, I haven't really heard much. So did the odds flip because of that? Maybe, but at the same time, Vegas should be smarter than that to give into that shit. But I don't know. And obviously, to see Carr visiting with the Saints right now is it's not really disheartening, but it makes you nervous. It definitely makes me nervous. I'm waiting for the Jets to announce that he's coming to visit the Jets because who's to say that he doesn't accept a trade there for a 3rd round pick and now he's playing with the Saints. Which, by the way, I have no idea how they fit him under their contract. I think they're $60 million over the cap right now. And I saw something the other day, don't quote me on it, but if they were to cut everybody with positive like cap ramifications, they would only save like $24 million. So it'd still be almost $40 million over the cap with doing everything they can. And then they have to trade a bunch of guys to get under the cap. So what are they pitching Derek Carr? Like, yeah, okay, the NFC South sucks. You can pretty much walk into the playoffs at 9-8. Okay, obviously, that's there could be some positive steps up for other teams, but nonetheless, 9-8 probably gets into the playoffs in that division. 10-7 at worst, most likely. You're in a dome. You're in the South. It's warmer. Okay, but yeah, solid defense, some solid playmakers, but clearing $60 million of cap space. How good is that team really? I have to look at their cap to see who exactly they have to trade, but is it Marshawn Lattimore? Is it Jordan? Like who are they getting rid of to clear up that space? So how good are they really if they get Carr now? Could it be a thing where, okay, they give him minimal this year and a massive cap hit next year? It's possible. But there's $60 million over the cap. That's not even factoring in Carr's $35 million whatever he's going to make this year. So if he makes $1, there's still $60 million over the cap. And like I think the cap is not real thing. Kind of it exists. I get why, but it still does to a certain point. Like they had to trade Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for what was like a 5th round pick because they need to get rid of him for cap ramifications. So it'll catch up to you. Now maybe you could push it down the road for a year, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. But the Saints are hit by it now. It's real now. It wasn't real for those 2-3 years they were finding themselves out of it. But you can keep pushing the can down the road. It's going to hit you. But still, first game was Richard Todd versus Archie Manning. What year was that? I don't even know. You're talking 90s, right? So I was 93. So let's see. Such as discussing drop off after Carr Rodgers fan base is going to melt down when we. Yeah, no, it's a massive drop off, and that's the thing. The drop off between Carr or Rodgers to Carr is less than a drop off from Carr to Jimmy G to me, or Carr to Tannehill to me. You're talking about Tannehill being 34, 35 years old, a guy who I've never really liked in general. And then Jimmy G is a guy who's going to play, 10, 12 games. Guy who, don't spare me with the number stuff, the completion percentage stuff. That offense is the easiest offense to be productive in. So, I don't have much faith in him coming to the Jets and lighting up like he did when he was with Deebo Samuel and Kittle and Trent Williams and McGlinchey and, obviously a good running game and a really good head coach. I just don't see it. So you're talking about a quarterback who, to me, is in that 16 to 22 range. Maybe. Honestly, he can come here and completely melt. I don't know. It's just a massive drop-off to me. I think Rodgers, Kyle and I talked about it last week. He's probably the 6th best quarterback right now in the NFL going into next year. That's what we think. Maybe 5th, maybe 4th. We can argue or whatever. Where Carr is 11, 12, and you're talking about obviously him being more stable, just in terms of how long he can play for and mentality, all that shit. So, to me, it's Carr. You after Carr. If you miss out on him, okay, go balls deep for Rodgers. If not him, then I don't know. Lamar Jackson. But people talk about Lamar Jackson. He wants more than Deshaun Watson got, right? 5 years, $230 guaranteed. Talking about, $48 million, $47 million, quick math off the top of my head, whatever that is, $47 million a year guaranteed for a guy who has missed a couple of games the last couple of years. And I know they're not just running quarterback injuries, but there's still injuries to the knee. And there's doctors out there who think he might need complete reconstruction of his PCL. And you're talking about fitting him into a system that we're not sure if he fits into. Now, I get he played in a more of a pro-style offense with Louisville when he was there, but that was also 5 years ago. And did the Jets have was it a West Coast? I know pro-style is not necessarily West Coast, but was it West Coast? And it's not like he wasn't the number 1 draft pick when he came out of that offense. He was the 32nd pick in the draft, or maybe I'm mistaken. The 32nd pick in that draft. And obviously, if you're going to be signing him for $48 million a year, one of the main draws, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson can't be decent in a pro-style offense, but obviously the main draw of Lamar Jackson, what makes him dynamic is his running ability. So you try to play him in a pro-style offense, try to make him a pocket passer. I'm not paying $48 million a year guaranteed for a guy who has knee problems, giving up 3 first-round draft picks and trying to make him a pocket passer. That doesn't make sense. If you're paying that much for him, you want to make him, obviously, you want to kind of accentuate his strengths, right? And that's not being a pocket passer, obviously. So it doesn't make sense. I'm not necessarily in that line of thinking with getting Lamar Jackson. Now, if it happens, it happens. But 3 first-round draft picks trying to fit him in with Hackett, obviously coming from the Ravens, power blocking scheme to go to a West Coast outside zone type system, and not necessarily wanting to take advantage of his strengths in terms of playing with QB counters and QB powers and QB sweeps and all the stuff that they do, midline and veers, and I don't know. It's just that's a hard situation. And who's to say the Ravens don't just tag him and keep him, whatever. And then past that, again, it's Tannehill, trade draft picks for him, Jimmy Garoppolo. Yikes. So it's not that I don't prefer Rodgers for 1 year over Carr for 1 year. It's that the drop off between Carr to Rodgers or Rodgers to Carr and then Carr to whatever else is way too big of a risk for me to take. That's just not, I can't. NY Jet Superfan, the black thing on your screen is from me. That is my fault. The only way I could think to fix that is I go to Apple and have them fix the camera or get a whole new computer for, we're talking, I don't know, what does computers cost nowadays for a good computer? $2,000-$3,000, which I don't know what to do. I'm not a big tech guy, but I need a computer with good storage space, streaming, all that stuff. But it'll happen eventually. But all right, past that in terms of the intro stuff, Super Bowl. I don't know who you guys have. My gut says the Eagles, but I don't want to root for the Eagles. I also don't want to root for Mahomes, just because I like Mahomes. My grandpa's a big Chiefs fan. With that being said, I hate Jackson Mahomes, and his wife annoys me as well. So I don't want to know that they're happy. That's just a sinister part of me or whatever. So I don't really want to root for either team. Talk about sports too. LeBron got over he's number 1 scorer in the NBA. I hate LeBron though. I think he, and people did the commentary, oh, he's 6'9", I'll kick your ass. But he's like the biggest pansy for 6'9", 240, whatever he is. I remember the Lakers playing the Nets. I think it was the Lakers at the time, but he missed the game-winning shot. He's like, yeah, I got poked in the eye and I saw 3 hoops. And I just shot at the middle one. I clearly that was wrong. It's like, yeah, okay, you saw 3 hoops, dude. Shut up. And I don't like him for a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into, but I do not like LeBron. So regardless, it was fun to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar looking like he did. I think JD will be aggressive with Rodgers, but not reckless. JD knows a drop off at QB is a cliff after Carr. But the thing is, again, the Sneakers would try to appreciate you being here. What's the timeline? Do you have to decide on Rodgers end of March, mid-March, May, April, where Carr could be traded today? He could be traded in a couple of hours. He could be traded. They have to cut him by the 15th, right? Which is next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday. Who's to say he doesn't sign late February? Who's to say he's not traded tomorrow? So you don't have the benefit of waiting for Rodgers. And then if he gets traded to the Saints, Rodgers says, no, I'm retiring or I'm staying with the Packers. It's a massive risk. It's just way too big. I get that Rodgers you have more flexibility in terms of the cap the next 2 years to really make a run with Rodgers, more so than you do with Carr. Carr, obviously, you also get the draft picks, and you don't have to worry about him necessarily retiring next year or a year after that. Rodgers is a Jet already. You know it. The thing is, the Raiders are minus 400 right now for him, and we're plus 200. And who's to say he doesn't retire? Listen, you tell me Rodgers is a Jet. Okay, cool. Let's ride. But I'm not Broncos country. Let's ride. I should probably say something different there. But it's a very big risk for him. Very big risk. Let's see. I see the super chat to get back to it. This is actually, let me go down. I'll try to do the super chats immediately. I try to remember exactly where I was in the chat because this is pretty much, I have no topics at all. This is just me coming in here to talk to you guys for an hour or whatever it's going to be. Ron Weiss, appreciate the $5 super chat. Joe, if we start looking at guys like Jimmy or Mayfield, aren't we better off keeping Zach at that point? Well, they're going to keep Zach regardless. And to me, this is just me kind of dissecting this question. Jimmy and Mayfield are in completely different classes to me. Jimmy, you can actually be relatively successful with. And this is after me questioning completely what he is and what he would be with the Jets versus with the Niners. But Jimmy G, you have him on the Jets last year. This is assuming somewhat health. I still think you're winning 9-10 games with Jimmy last year, where Mayfield, he had a couple of good games with the Rams. Everybody lost their shit, but he looked terrible with the Browns the last couple of years, whatever it was, with a lot of talent around him. He looked like absolute dog shit with the Panthers. And he had a good game or two with the Rams, but past that, what did he really do? So Mayfield's in a completely different class, and Mayfield in the New York media would be a complete shit show. So if Mayfield's a starting quarterback for the Jets, I'm gonna have serious problems. I'm gonna have serious problems being consistent with content and wanting to do this. I couldn't see it. So yeah, Zach over Mayfield. Sure, but Jimmy's in a different class, and I'd rather have Jimmy over Zach. But the thing we have to realize, and I'm not saying that I think this should necessarily be the case, but at the end of the day, Joe Douglas and Saleh being here for years and not hitting the playoffs and missing out on number 2 pick, and then coming into next year with selling Woody Johnson and, hey, it's Baker Mayfield and Zach Wilson, you might be looking at a new head coach and GM in 2024. So there's no way they're going to hitch their wagon. Before it was Mayfield or Zach, I legitimately think, and this is a very low shot, 1% chance, 2% chance, whatever it was. At that point, you trade up from 13 into the top 3, and you grab Stroud or Levis or Bryce Young, or you do something like that. There's no way you're walking into the season next year with Mayfield or Zach or Jacoby Brissett. I think the lowest. I think this is even probably a reach, but the lowest tier guy I can see them legitimately walking into. Like, okay, maybe we can win some games is, the Jimmy G's, the Tannehills of the world, and that's the bare minimum. If you're walking there with Mayfield or Zach, it's just you can pretty much kiss those guys goodbye, in my opinion. Which I don't think is necessarily fair. But at the end of the day, Joe Douglas has been here for 4 or 5 years, no playoffs. I think he's a great drafter. But at the end of the day, you get a number 2 pick on a quarterback that failed. Which it wasn't a bad pick. Most of the NFL agreed with the pick at that time, but you fail on that, and then you have your Woody Johnson's hearing the Rodgers and all this stuff, and you're walking with Mayfield. No, but I appreciate the super chat. But no to Zach, no to Mayfield. They will do something past that if they have to. They'll trade up in the draft, legitimately. Okay. This is a sign Rodgers is embracing Gotham, going full Bane, living. Yeah, I put up that tweet. Now again, Raiders fans saying, okay, he's in the dark, obviously the black hole. But is it the black hole in Vegas anymore? I don't really consider it the black hole anymore. They probably have a pretty bad home field advantage, I would imagine, in Vegas. But Rodgers is definitely going to the Raiders. Raiders have agreed to their 7th pick. Okay, I think William is just putting out random sources here. Or random stuff. Why would Raiders give up a 7 for 2-year quarterback? Depends on how desperate they are. Depends on how desperate McDaniels is. But is McDaniels and Rodgers really a great mixture? Rodgers is a guy who clearly is pretty free spirited and doesn't like to be told what to do. And McDaniels comes from the Bill Belichick, stern type coaching system. Is that going to be a great fit? Rodgers has to learning a new system. I believe he's never been in a system like McDaniels at 39 years old versus coming to a system with the Jets that he knows, with Hackett, obviously. I don't see them. I know all the smoke around them last couple of days, weeks, whatever it may be. But in terms of the system, the coach, the personnel, I just see the Jets being a much better option. And listen, at the end of the day, do the Raiders have some talent? Yeah, they have Devontae. Yeah, they have obviously Walter. But is he staying there? I think obviously if you bring in Rodgers, most likely they're going to keep him. Renfro, but their defense is what is their defense? I don't know. But keep moving on. Over the cap, Moses dead cap at -5 million post June. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. I believe it's $4 million or $17 million in savings and $4 million dead this year and next year. I could be wrong. But reduced dead cap. So I think it would be 4 dead, and then maybe there's something in 2024 or 5. I don't know, but I am Peaches. I am cheese. I don't know. What's the details on the new pod? Yeah, so Buffalo Jets fan reached out to me, and we're going to be doing a podcast. I have no idea the name. I think it's going to be once a week. It could be every other week. I'm not 100% sure yet. We're kind of in the beginning stages of hammering out the contract, but I think it's going to be once a week right now, probably anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. Maybe we'll do mailbags, maybe we'll not. I'm not sure. There's a lot of details to be worked out. I don't know exactly what platform it's going to be on, but I think we're recording the next week or two. So, be on the lookout. Now, it's most likely, I'll be transparent, it's most likely going to be behind some type of paywall, whether that be Jets X Factor, subscribing and then getting that as well, or, $4 or $5 a month for that. But we're doing a podcast soon. So if you like both of us and you want to listen to a podcast with us once a week, then do it. Obviously, he's a guy who rose up the YouTube ranks pretty quickly. He went from, I'm not being offensive to him, but he's a guy who a year ago, I don't know if he's on YouTube, and now he has like 9,000 subscribers. So he's killing it. So let's join forces and do a podcast. It's gonna be fun. So I've linked up with him a couple of times and I like him. So do we want to sign Carr before waiting on Rodgers? Yes, you rock. Still be a fail. I'm not sure. I'm behind. Josh, I'm sorry. My wife hates it too. I have to do better managers to go to next year. I can't go full. Unless I'm going undercover for something, I have to look like a shitbag. Because listen, I do look like a shitbag with that facial hair. Then that's about it. But I would like Carr or Jimmy G. Thank you, Mike. Joe Peculic with a great Joey B. What's up? What's up, Joe? We have talent and cap room to offer Carr to build around him. The thing is, you have, and again, I'm not going to assume the Jets are going to be a top 5 defense necessarily next year because you never know. Defenses and how good or bad they are it varies a lot from year to year. But I do believe in some of the talent. They did at the end of the day play a lot of backup quarterbacks. Now you can't necessarily pick who you play, but they did play at least 4 or 5 games of backup quarterbacks. And they have a lot to work on in terms of the middle of the defense. Yeah, I'm comfortable with the edge rushers for the most part. I'm comfortable with Quinn Williams. He's going to be here. But Quinn Williams is the only D tackle under contract. Shepard's not here. Rankins is not here. Tanzel Smart is not here in terms of under contract. So who's playing D tackle? Who's playing linebacker past Mosley? Who's playing safety next year? So they have talent, obviously, with Sauce and with Reed and JJ and Huff will be back most likely and JFM and all that stuff. But the whole middle chunk of the Jets defense is completely missing right now. So nonetheless, they could build that up. I think you get a couple of mid-tier starters at linebacker. You re-sign Quan, you re-sign Quincy, or you re-sign one of them, get another mid-tier guy. You sign a Jimmy Ward, you keep Whitehead, which I don't necessarily advocate for, but they could still be a very good defense. Building around or still be in the top 10 at the minimum, I think. And then on offense, listen, like Elijah Moore, should we be as high on Elijah Moore as we were on him after his rookie year? Not necessarily. No, we shouldn't, obviously. With that being said, should we be as low as we were on him last year at certain points? No. Like I still think he's a solid number 2 receiver. He could be a very good starting level receiver. I do. Just based on his talent. Now, do I like his off the field antics and all that other stuff? No, I never will. I'll never agree with what he did after a 3-game winning streak, against the Packers, kind of putting it out there on Twitter. But at the end of the day, do I have a lot of faith in his talent? Do I have a lot of faith that he is much more what he was at Ole Miss and what he was in year 1 versus what he is in year 2 or what he was in year 2? Yes. Do I still think Conklin is better than he showed out last year? Yes, I do. Ruckert had a good game at the end of the year. So I think the Jets have some plus playmakers. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's most likely going to be a superstar. I think Elijah Moore's a solid starting receiver. Is it Corey Davis? Is it Lazard? Is it one of those guys? I don't know. But even with the top 2, I'm comfortable with that. You have Conklin, who I think is still a solid receiving tight end. Uzama is a good number 2. Ruckert, you have Breece Hall. You have to fix up the offensive line a little bit. But yeah, they have plenty. They have plenty of talent and cap room to build around Carr. And I know they don't have a lot of cap room this year per se, but 2024, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a little bit over $100 million, like $104 million they have to play with. So a lot of the contracts will be small hits this year, big hits 2024, and balance out a little bit. So they have plenty of room to operate with in the years going forward. Caden, the Jets really have me over a barrel because I know if we miss on a QB, end up running back with Mike White. And yeah. Don't, Caden. Now, listen, will I do it to a certain extent too? Yes, I will. Let's be real here. And if Mike White was healthy and played the entire season, do we win more than 7 games? I think so. Is Jacoby Brissett better than Zach Wilson? Could we have won 8-9 games with Jacoby Brissett? Yeah, we could have, but we're not going anywhere with those guys. I think you can maybe have a winning record, maybe make a playoff run or a playoff run as a 6 or 7 seed with Jacoby Brissett. But come on, man. They can win enough to get there. They're not winning anything significant. Joe, did you read Rich Cimini's article? No, I do not, because I did not follow Rich Cimini. About why Zach didn't take off. Found it was an interesting read. Makes it sound like it was both the coaching staffs. Yeah, it's a combination for sure. I'm still putting 80% of the blame on Zach. He was terrible. It's not like Zach just barely didn't work out. He was dreadful. And don't blame him on center, the left tackle, the coach, whatever it was. He was staring at guys wide open and he wouldn't pull the trigger consistently. Panicking through the reads, obviously terrible pocket awareness. The interceptions were brutal. The accuracy on swing passes that I've seen, again, guys, a 12-pack deep in NetLife parking lot at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, maybe not 12 deep at 8 o'clock, but 12 deep at 12 o'clock. So I'm still putting 80% on Zach. But yeah, I think there's 15% of the blame on the coaching staff, maybe 20. You can argue 25, 30, but definitely most of the blame is on Zach. So also my first Jets QB only really saw Namath after he was washed up. You see, been here for a little bit, Jonathan. I feel bad. Like at the end of the day, it's just crazy that the Jets really haven't had any successful quarterbacks. You can, the Todds and obviously the Pennington and stuff of the world. But we're talking about mediocrity. Really minus Favre for 11 weeks, whatever it was before he got injured. And at the end of the day, Pennington was solid, but like in that mediocre range, it's been bad. Same old Jets show. You're spot on. The Minnesota game was a killer. I was at the stadium and told the people with me that they would lose out. Yeah, like the Minnesota game, at least they were competitive, and it was a lot of flubs by one specific guy. There's a lot of flubs in that game by specifically Mike LaFleur. But there's no excuse for how they played in the Dolphins game. There's no excuse for how they played in the Jaguars game. There's no excuse for how they played in the Lions game. Like they were dreadful. They were the same old Jets those last couple of weeks. I'm not talking about from a circus standpoint, but again, Mike LaFleur stuff trickling out, the receiver stuff trickling out. It definitely wasn't great. It was same old Jets. Let's just be real. They embarrassed themselves. They were bottom 3 team. Who is an equivalent to Mark Sanchez? I think Jets fans remember him like with some fondness because of where the Jets went with him under center. But you're talking about a number 1 defense and number 1 rushing game in the league with some good talent at wide receiver. Mark Sanchez, who is an equivalent right now. Mark Sanchez. Some Jets fans probably hate me for saying this, but like he was at best like the 24th best quarterback ever in the NFL the year he was playing. So who's the equivalent to him right now? Jimmy's better. Tannehill's better. Jacoby Brissett? I don't know. Jacoby might even be better. Mark Sanchez at times in his career didn't even look like he should be a backup. He was terrible at the end. 2012, 13, all that stuff. He was bad. Very, very bad. So you put Jacoby Brissett with the number 1 rush team, the number 1 defense in the league with some good playmakers. Who's to say? And it's not like the Jets dominated some of those years. Like the one year they were 9-7, made the playoffs by the skin of their balls. It's not like they were 12-4 that year, and were road gritting teams. Like Mark Sanchez was okay, but let's be real here. Mark Sanchez was a bad quarterback. Sorry. Based on age, Carr isn't a better option. Rodgers might taper where Carr could get better based on experience playing on a better all-around team. This is the thing with Carr too is like, listen, Jets fans in general, the general feel I have of Jets fans is that they disrespect Carr and they just look at playoff wins, record. That's all they look at. Which again, it was Zach Wilson early in the year. Zach Wilson's a good quarterback, but Carr he's played with an organization that has obviously been dysfunctional. With their coaches, their draft picks killing people, their draft picks getting arrested. Was that Damon Arnett too who got arrested? Playing with not a lot of talent around him. And yeah, there were some years he had, Crabtree and Cooper, but past that, last couple of years before, Adams came and all these like recent guys, he wasn't playing with a lot of talent. And if he was playing at some talent at skill positions, they're still out there drafting guys like Leatherwood and having a terrible offensive line, a terrible running game minus Josh Jacobs when he came. The defense has never been, correct me if I'm wrong, above 20th best in the league, however you rate that. And I think if you actually combine all the years, he's had, if not the worst defense, a bottom 3 defense in the league since he's been on the Raiders. So you're talking about a terrible defense, dysfunctional organization, a bad offensive line consistently, sprinkled with some bad playmakers, and he's never won. Okay, and I'm not comparing him 1-to-1 for Stafford. That's not what I'm doing here. But Stafford won. I'm not sure if it was 1 or 0 playoff games before he went to the Rams, but then he won a Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's going to bring us to the Super Bowl and he's Stafford's level. But if we're gonna make simplistic, stupid arguments, then Stafford sucked too. At the Lions, the Rams should have never traded for him. He didn't work out. He would never work out with the Rams, right? And again, I'm not comparing one for one, but if we're going along that lines of thinking, why not? Randy Moss never won a Super Bowl. He sucked at receiver. Obviously, listen, it's different with quarterbacks. Dan Marino sucks. Never won. Peyton Manning for years before he went to the Broncos, he sucked, right? Joe Flacco's better. He won a Super Bowl first. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. And like this, Carr can never bring us there. Nick Foles has won. Jimmy's went far in the playoffs. Did I say Nick Foles already? Peyton Manning was a shell of himself. Now listen, Peyton Manning still Peyton Manning pre-snap, and Peyton Manning with 15 Broncos? 13, 14, 15, whatever year that was. Ridiculous playmakers, ridiculous defense. Or no, the defense wasn't as good, right? The defense was actually kind of a weak point for them. But nonetheless, really, really good team around him. But there's examples of quarterbacks, not necessarily always winning, who are mid, but they at least make it far enough to give you a shot. Like, who's to say, when Jimmy, and listen, I know we don't have Shanahan, I don't have Kittle, I know we don't have Debo, but Jimmy was close to winning a Super Bowl quite a few times. He was just in the conference championship game, not Jimmy, but Brock Purdy. So who's to say Carr can't at least give the Jets a shot to get to the AFC title game and maybe win that game? You don't know. Obviously the Jets, they almost made the playoffs with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They almost made the Super Bowl with Sanchez. So Carr can't do it. Listen, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Okay, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be the one to do it. At the same time, Rodgers also put up 7 points versus the Niners, and obviously there's a lot of circumstances with that. But it's not like these games are 41-48 all the time. Joe Burrow put up 20 points and should have had 3 picks versus the Chiefs. Burrow is much better than Carr. Carr can't put up 20 points versus the Chiefs. And I get Rodgers on the NFC, but they scored 10 points versus the Niners last year. Can't compete. Why did Huntley almost beat Joe Burrow? It's about the team too. It's not just about the quarterback. So if you can have Carr first round draft pick, you sign some guys for. Let's be real. If Carr comes here, or even Rodgers, whoever it's going to be, teams or players are at least going to sign much more friendly contract. I'm not saying like they're going to pennies on a dollar type deal here, but there's no more Jets tax. It's like, okay, come play with Rodgers, this guy. Okay, I'm not gonna hold you over the barrel for this. So. Now obviously, do you prefer to have Rodgers against Burrow or Rodgers against Mahomes? Yeah, but Burrow put up 2 picks, almost 3 picks, and scored 20 points. Again, it wasn't 51-48. It's about the team. I'm sure people said that in 2010 with Sanchez, and Derek Carr is much better than Sanchez, and obviously, different circumstances, all that stuff. But I'm sure that people, we can't compete with Philip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys, and he'll never beat Peyton Manning. He'll never beat Brady. Okay, well, Mark Sanchez didn't beat Brady. The Jets defense, David Harris, etc., beat Brady, but still, you see what I'm saying? Like the simplistic, the really simple arguments, just really broad. Oh, he can't beat us. He's not better than this guy. We'll never beat them. Okay, then how did Jimmy get there? How did Foles win a Super Bowl? Is Foles better than Brady? Did Foles beat Brady that Super Bowl? Was it coaching? Was it lots of them? Again, we're talking about Doug Peterson, versus. Saleh and Saleh versus Shanahan and all this stuff. I get that. There's a lot to that argument, but people are so black and white. It's mind numbing. It's mind numbing. Raiders are paying some of Carr's contract. Please don't bring Aaron Rodgers circus to town. I get that. At the end of the day, again, and I wouldn't love the circus either. But at the end of the day, if he's winning these games for us in the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl, then I could deal with the circus. But if the Jets win one playoff game and then we're dealing with him going into an isolation tank or whatever for 4 days and he's not sure about next year, I'm gonna be pretty pissed. If for just 1 year of Rodgers potentially, and where I could have had Carr for 5 or 6 years. Now, if we win a Super Bowl that year, I don't care. I'll sell. We'll all sell our souls to the devil for that Super Bowl. So if he wins it, sure. But if we get to the divisional game, conference championship game, he's talking about retirement again, retired after a year, I'm gonna be pissed. We miss on Carr. I don't trust Lamar throwing at some. Yeah, it's true. Sneakers and boots. He's not the best outside the numbers. He's an inconsistent passer. I think he's a decent passer. I think he might get overlooked by some as a pure passer. But with that being said, I'm not paying Lamar Jackson $48 million a year to be a pocket passer and run 4 times a game. You're paying Lamar Jackson to be Lamar Jackson, and that includes him running the ball. And he's been injured a little bit over the last few years. Again, not necessarily outside the pocket. He's got injured, but still knee injuries. Might need complete reconstruction of a PCL, and he wants $47 million a year guaranteed. and you're going to give up 3 first-round draft picks, whatever it may be, let's just call it 3 first-round draft picks to get him. I'm not personally. You're telling me $40 million a year guaranteed, 3 first-round draft picks. I'm not doing it. I'd rather have the Rodgers for a year or two and the Derek Carrs. And the thing is, like, yeah, he's what, 26? I think he's 26 years old. And people will say, oh, well, he'll last for 10 years. You're banking on Lamar lasting 10 more years. I doubt that. But each their own. I'll go to the super chat 623. Got to remember where I was. You guys are killing it in the chat. Alex, $10 super chat. Appreciate it. Joe Douglas misses on Rodgers, Carr, Lamar. I think he should try selling Woody on pivoting towards building up capital. Yeah, now I think you probably lump in Jimmy G and Tannehill to this because I think you can win some games with those guys. But why can't he? Could he sell to Woody Johnson? Hey, we miss him a lot of these guys. I really have a lot of faith in Bryce Young or whoever it may be. I guess it's a possibility. I don't think you're going to sell Woody Johnson. Hey, we're going to take another year off and we're going to suck this year. And then 2024, we're going to build up draft capital and maybe not land a veteran quarterback or draft another rookie that year. I think you could sell him maybe on, hey, we're going to trade up 8 spots and draft a rookie again. And then you're buying yourself at least 2 years. But is Woody Johnson going to co-sign that? I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. It's imperative they land one of Rodgers or Carr. But I appreciate the super chat, Alex, for sure. Helps support the channel. Which again, Buffalo, the whole podcast thing. I think it's probably like $5 a month Patreon or behind the paywall of Jets X Factor. It's literally 2 cups of coffee. And if you don't want to listen to it, it is what it is. Like I'm fine with that. I get people who don't want to spend that, but if you do, we'll appreciate the support. It'll be fun. So I know there's a lot of people who listen to both. So let's see. I hear we're getting okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it's the first time seeing you, but I understand. Whatever. I was gonna predict that win was killer for what game? Bears, Lions, Jags. Seems like the Jets, like at least half the home games are raining. It's ridiculous. Damn shame. Yeah. Hooker's too old and bad injury. The thing with Hooker, it's which. Oh, by the way, too. I'm gonna try to catch up to the chat. But for some people, some draft updates. I just finished Paris Johnson. 5 games I watched. Georgia, Michigan, Iowa State, Notre Dame. I think I watched I watched 5 games of him. He's like a 30-play review coming out eventually. And then I plan on. You guys tell me. Listen, I'm not entrenched into the draft at this point. I ask people on Twitter what's the most likely picks at 13. The Jets keep that picks, and I would say the top 5 I saw, or at least reading up a little bit as well. I think it's a combination of Paris Johnson, Peter Skronsky, how you say his name is, the tackle/guard from Northwestern, Brian Branch, Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones, he's 6'8", big dude too. Is showing us a little bit scared off of taking big tackles, maybe. So I don't think that's necessarily very, very likely. But I saw his name. And then Jordan Addison is one of the receivers I've been seeing a little bit of. I know there's Hyatt and Jackson Smith and another guy, but from what I've seen from those guys are more slot guys. I don't think the Jets would draft a slot guy. I'm more of a slot guy at 13th. I think they're going to draft anybody. It's even more of an outside guy. And I know Addison plays inside and outside, but based on everything I've read so far, this can completely change. He's probably the most likely pick at 13 for the Jets in general. But those are the 5 guys I'm doing. If there's anybody else you guys want to see, let me know. But I just finished up Paris Johnson, which will drop, I don't know, a month or 2, whatever. But it's cooked. It's there. I just got to record it for 45 minutes, hour and a half, whatever that show's going to be. But so Johnson, Jones, Skronsky as the offensive lineman, and then Brian Branch and Addison. And I get people to say there's no way Addison would happen. At the end of the day, we don't know. If the Jets, let's say they were to they make a big swing of a trade for whoever at left tackle, and then they want to go in with Becton and Max Mitchell at right tackle, who's to say they don't draft a receiver at 13? I'm not going to guarantee it. But those are the 5 names I see the most associated with the Jets. So if there's anything else you guys want to see, any other ideas, let me know. I'll try to fit in at least 5 to 10 reviews of those guys. But I know in a couple of weeks, hopefully tomorrow when the Jets land Derek Carr, a lot of my time's going to be taken up like that. So, but is JD waiting until the 15th to get something done for Carr? I don't know. You'd assume you want to at least bring him in for a visit and talk to him. Agree for that trade compensation. It's not necessarily finalized. If you agree to the trade compensation, it's not. Oh well, if Carr says yes, then it's traded for you. So have to really file it and all that stuff. So at least bring him in and talk to him, unless they're just not going to do that. And, we'd rather go with Rodgers and strike out and miss potentially and go with Jimmy G. That's not my line of thinking. I would be pretty disappointed. So Rodgers won't retire. He said on the Pat McAfee show he really couldn't care any less about retiring with Brady. But with that being said, based on everything I've heard from him, it seems like he's going to be playing next year. So what are you talking about? Carr's nowhere as accomplished as Joey Garoppolo. Yep, Joey Garoppolo. Joey Garoppolo is killing it. Like, just because he made it to the okay. Again, so like if we're talking simplistics here, then Mark Sanchez, who's 4-2 in the playoffs, is better than Derek Carr, right? Like Sanchez is more accomplished than him. It's just it's very simplistic. I'm not going to put energy into it and getting frustrated about it. Quarterback wins or wins are not just a quarterback stat. Mark Sanchez is not better than Dan Marino in the playoffs. I'm not sure what Marino's playoff record is. I'm pretty sure it's not 4-2, whatever it is. Was Mark Sanchez, who was drafted in the same class as Stafford, is he better than Stafford? Or was he better than Stafford up until last year because he was 4-2 in the playoffs and Stafford never won a playoff game or won one playoff game? Is that the type of arguments we're making? Is that really logical? Like we can't get. I shouldn't get mad about that stuff anymore because I feel like there's no reason to get frustrated and explain yourself to a person you're not going to be able to explain yourself to. It's just never going to click. Sanchez is better than Carr. It's a win thing. It's a win thing. So I don't know. Nick Foles, easily better than Dan Marino, right? Why not? No. They're cash for, but the Saints are giving a second. Okay, William, I'm just blocked. I keep trying. I keep like blanking out on the name or who you are, but you just keep putting in the most random shit in here. So you're getting. I don't want to see it. Only 105 here. We're hurting on the numbers right here, but I'll take it. I'll lose William there because just putting out fake shit is just annoying. Hooker, I have no idea. The only thing I'll say with Hooker is he's the older quarterback, right? He's 25 years old. I know he has an injury. I'm not sure how significant it is, but it is drafting a quarterback who's developmental, second, third round, whatever it is, him being 25, is that going to scare me off? No. Would I prefer a quarterback who's 20, 21, 22? Sure. But at the end of the day, if a quarterback can last 7, 8, 9, 10 years until they're 35, then does 25 years old really matter as much as people think it does? It doesn't. Now we're talking about D end, corner, or something like that. It matters a little bit more. But for a quarterback, I have to look more into the injury things. But the fact he's 24, 25 doesn't bother me as much as some other people. That's what I'll say. But past that, I'm not going to just say something. I haven't studied him. I don't really know who he is. So, see. Buffalo Jets fan, what's up? Again, podcast will be out within next week or two. About Elijah Moore is overrated. Based on like tell me what is his rating? That's what I need to know with that question. Elijah Moore was very, very good at Ole Miss. I really, really like his film. And last year he's getting open plenty. He just wasn't targeted. We know that Michael LaFleur at a certain point had to change the offense to like a 1 or 2 read offense. If not, check it down. So when Elijah Moore is not the first, second, or not the first or second read, then he's not getting targeted. And you're talking about a guy who at Ole Miss was a guy digs, crosses over the middle, free releases, and the Jets try to put him on the outside at the beginning of the year versus press and run vertical routes. It's not smart to use a guy or use him in that way. Now, I'm not saying he can't do that, but that's not what he got drafted to do. That's not why he was drafted as highly as he was drafted. So Elijah Moore is a good player to me. Like you're telling me Elijah Moore had 800 to 900 to 1,000 yards next year as a number 2 receiver with Aaron Rodgers. I can't say that he can't do that. Like Eric Decker was a very, very solid number 2 with the Jets and got 1,000 yards. And obviously that was a historical year for the Jets in terms of wide receiver production. But Elijah Moore's a good player to me. Now, again, the antics, all that stuff, I don't love it. But in terms of route running, in terms of all that stuff, what he did at Ole Miss, what he did in his rookie year, he's not – I don't think he's going to be an afterthought. Oh, a number 3, okay, player. I still think he could be a very good player. We have to see these guys with some talent at quarterback. What would Garrett Wilson's stat line be this year if he had a quarterback consistently? Even if it was just Mike White all year. What does he have? 1,400 yards? Now, let's make that Aaron Rodgers. Now let's apply that same thing for Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore was open. Trust me, there was plays out there where Elijah Moore was plenty open, but he just wasn't targeted. So whoever comes to this team is going to find out how good this roster really is. The roster's good. There's a lot to figure out though. Simon. I always call you Simon. I don't know if it's I do not, and you never correct me. I don't know if it's Matthias. I don't know what it is. That word, your first name just bugs me out somewhere. I don't know how to say it for whatever reason. With that being said, they have a lot to figure out as well. The offensive line, there's a lot to figure out, which is obviously a huge part. The quarterback, obviously, we're implying that a quarterback comes here at that point. D tackle, there's not many on the roster right now. You don't have to splash there, but still, linebacker, safety, big questions. Jimmy Ward, I think there's going to be a lot of mid-tier guys for free agency. Like I don't think we're going out there and getting Poyer and Bates. I think it's more okay. Jimmy Ward, who might cost you $7 million a year, and a $3-4 million D tackle. Rankin's back for 5 or 6. Maybe Quan back for $3-4 million a year, and like a Nicholas Morrow type. I don't think he's a free agent, but like last year he got signed for $2.5 million. Like I think that's more likely what it is, and they spend a little more on the offensive line and quarterback. So I think with some just decent talent at linebacker and safety, they can replicate what they did last year. Now, with that being said, at the end of the last year, did teams like the Lions, the Jags, whoever else, even the Pats, when they played them, at least the first game, start taking advantage of the safeties and linebackers? Yeah, but you're talking about Jimmy Ward or from Joyner to Jimmy Ward, it's a big upgrade. Joyner was garbage last year, and let's be frank too. Whitehead was terrible last year too. Should he be making $8 million a year, whatever it is next year? No. To me, would you cut him for $7 million a year? Say that $7 million a year and invest it elsewhere? To me, yes. But with that being said, are you going to get 2 new safeties, 2 new linebackers, a new D tackle? It's a lot to ask. It's a lot of turnover. So he might just stay here, but is he worth what he's being paid? No. And I pretty much said that at the start of the signing. People are, oh my God, look how hard he hits. I can highlight or 2 on Twitter, which I was guilty of. You have to do that to get the retweets and stuff sometimes. But I said from the beginning of his review that he was not going to be as good as people thought he was or think he is, and he wasn't. He was a scrub for a lot of the years. So T. Rivera and Joby trust we need to be patient if there isn't any movement, not even an effort to talk to DC. Then we know there's a couple of realistic options. Yeah. Listen, I can understand the people who are do or die with the Rodgers stuff, but it's just not me. And listen, just because we disagree doesn't mean you're stupid. Like there are people out there, oh, you're an idiot. I get it. You might not think there's a big drop off between Derek Carr and Jimmy G. Me personally, I do. I really do. So I rather just go for Carr and get the guy who's, let's just say, the 12th best quarterback in the league right now. And I think you can win with that. I do. So if we land Rodgers or Carr, do you have Zach as your number 2? I wouldn't. It's a hard question to answer, Snowball, which is a really good question because at the end of the day, I know that Rodgers and Carr have been healthy, and knock on wood they are if they play with the Jets. At the end of the day, if you're getting one of those guys, you're hoping to make a significant playoff run. And if Zach has to walk in as your number 2, let's be frank here. Sorry, like you're screwed. And the whole thing with Rodgers, bringing him in to develop Zach Wilson. If Rodgers works out for 2 years, Zach Wilson, you're not extending his 5th-year option for however many $1 million a year that is. So he's gone anyway. So that's completely overblown. But nonetheless, do you have to bring in somebody as a backup? Yes, you do. And I'm not even saying it's not Mike White, because Mike White's going to cost, let's $8 million a year. You're not bringing in Carr for almost $40 million, White for $8 million, and then having Zach Wilson at 9. That's way too much money invested into your quarterback room. But with that being said, does it need to be, I can't even think of it, like a Chase Daniel, who was the Dolphins had for years, Matt Moore, like a very lower or like a low tier guy. Yeah. Like how much is Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton's making more than we should pay him, but a guy for $4 or $5 million. Yes. It's not. So let's see. Woody should let some intelligent Jets fans into the war room for different perspectives since everything is so close to their face. Yeah, there would be some things that I would have. There was definitely things I disagreed with last year. In terms of, and this is not just the draft. This is more free agency that I was thinking about, like watching one Jets drive. But Laken Tomlinson for his contract was always ridiculous. Way too much for Laken Tomlinson. I get he played a lot, but it's not like he played great. Laken Tomlinson, Whitehead, Barrios. Laken Tomlinson, Whitehead, Barrios, and there's another one I'm thinking that I can't hone in on now. That I was like at the time of the signing, it's like they overpaid. I forget. Joyner initially just trusting him to be a starting safety is not great. The tight end position, his first year was not great. The quarterback position, JD's first year or getting Zach Wilson was not great. There's another guy though. CJ Uzomah. CJ Uzomah for $8 million a year is too much. It just is. I like him. I like what he brings, but that was an overpay from the jump. So free agency, he needs to improve because a lot of his free agents have not worked out. Obviously, Reed has. I would say Fant, for where they paid him, worked out at least the first year or two, but past that, it's been a shit show. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with injuries, but another super chat, let me get to that, and then I'll go back. Where am I at? Okay. So, Ron, I do not know who this is. I'm not the guy that, I'm not going to Google him real quick and tell you who he is. Jacob Trouba, is he a second, third round guy? I haven't heard of him in the first round. Is linebacker on the table to kind of pivot in the second, third, fourth round, 100%. I don't. If I had to bet, one of Quan or Quincy is back. I do not think both will be. Past that, do you sign another low tier free agent to fill the gap at Mike or Will or whatever? Yes, but then can you draft a developmental guy in the second, third round? And then if he even beats out, say, Quan or the other guy, then he starts. And then obviously, you have a guy for $2-3 million on the bench, but it is what it is. Your young draft pick worked out great. But I think the Jets will be looking in the second, third, fourth round for a linebacker to develop. But do I necessarily know who Jacob Trouba at linebacker is? No. You could be making up a name. I have no idea. Again, I'm not gonna lie to you about the draft stuff. I'm not into it right now. There's a lot of people out there who will Google that name and say, "Oh yeah, the guy is fast as hell. He's good in coverage," and they never watch him play. That I'll never ever do that here. So sure, second, third round, Jacob Trouba. I'm cool with it. I think I might have missed this super. Did I miss anything recently? Okay, yeah. Sneakers to boots, $5. Appreciate that. Content that always worth the paywall. Keep it up, Joe. Always appreciate it. What's your position? What's your position that a high need that's flying under the radar? I think, listen, like at the end of the day, and I appreciate the super chat. It's been a month of talking about this stuff. So is there anything really under the radar? I don't know. Offensive line, people know about. Quarterback, people know about. Linebacker, people know about. Safety, people know about. I think D tackle was something that was understated at first, but now people are talking about it because they have one guy under contract. One, and that's Quinn Williams. I would like to see Rankins back, but they even past that, especially with the heavy rotation the Jets did. Let's say Rankins is back. Who is your 3 and 4? Maybe Shepard's back. Thomas was a bust of a signing. He was not good. But when you had Shepard and Thomas in there, the run defense was terrible. So D tackle, if it's still underrated, I would say past that, something that people don't necessarily mention as much. I would say receiver is a need, depending. Obviously, then I'm kind of saying depending in terms of the level of severity of said need. If Corey Davis is here, you don't need a starter. Now, is he here? I don't know. I would say it's almost 50-50 right now because I think Corey Davis is worth the money he's paid when he plays. The problem is obviously he's missed 12 games in 2 years, right? I think 12 games. So is he here? If he's here, I still think it's a need because to me, Barrios is gone. And then past that, Jeff Smith is gone. Sorry, guys. I'm not relying on Denzel Mims to be your number 4. So I would say number 4 receiver is a underrated need, even with Corey Davis. So that kind of falls into the underrated category. If Corey Davis is cut, obviously it becomes a primary need, so it's not going to be underrated anymore. So I would say receiver, number 4 receiver is a need, especially with Corey Davis, considering that you're going to assume he's going to be out for, again, knock on wood, hopefully it's no games, but let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Who is that guy to step in? And obviously with the rotations and all that, 11 personnel heavy Hackett is, you're going to see that 4th receiver quite a bit. I don't think it's Barrios. I don't think he should be back. So I would say receiver. Let me get back up to where I was, and we'll start flying to the chat a little bit. Waiting patiently to hear your Paris Johnson views. Domsky, I appreciate that. And I have to formulate like my list of the strengths and weaknesses. I think he's a good pass. I think he could be a very good pass protector. I like his feet. I like the way he frames guys. He plays a little bit high in his pass sets. He punches too often with 2 hands. I want to see him take advantage of his length more. 35.5-inch arms, I think it is. He lets guys get into his chest way too much. So I would like to see him be more forceful with his hands. I also think he shoots too high and wide sometimes. He just goes for hook techniques or just high hand placement in general. He gets bull rushed a bit too much. And people talk about his lack of strength in his leg drive and stuff like that in the running game. I don't think it's a lack of strength. I think it's him playing high and hand placement. I've seen him truck over guys, but it's not. So he has the strength. It's about hand placement. You can drive your legs as hard as you want. Your legs can be as strong as you want. If you don't have good hand placement, you're attacking in the center of gravity of defensive linemen. You're not really going to move guys But it's hand placement with him. So I think he's a better pass breaker than I think he's a run blocker at this point. But he could fix a lot of his flaws in his game with hand placement. Scooping from low, shooting too late, being a little bit high in his pass sets. But I like Paris Johnson. I wouldn't be jumping for joy necessarily at 13. But I think he's worth that pick. Did I like Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs and obviously ABTs of the world, some offensive linemen better than him in the last couple of years, yeah. But I think he's pretty raw in the run game. He'll pancake a guy or two, but his hand placement run game is brutal at times. I think he's pretty good in vertical sets. You're talking about play action, 45-degree sets, jump sets. He tends to overset guys, but vertical sets, he does a really, really good job splitting that defensive lineman with the outside foot. Good feet, active feet, good length, but he needs to take advantage of more in the pass game. Boozer deprivation tank is supposed to be beneficial to your health, especially with brain trauma. Do I care? I would like to do a deprivation tank one time and try it out. Like you're in the darkness and you're floating in water. It feels like you're just floating in space. There's nothing around you. You're like, cool, try it out. I don't give a fuck. He can do that every single day if he wants to. He's a good quarterback. I don't care. But I don't like guys who are making us delay a decision until however far. Hooker. I think I already answered that. Hooker. Let's see. I might have skipped over some of this stuff. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm going back. Okay. Hit the like you filthy animals. I agree with that. The return. I think you should be like the return, like the 2-time return of Rusty Spooner, of Jedi Rusty Spooner, because you're gone for a while and then you came back and then you disappeared again. Now you're back again. So you need to be the return times 2 of Jedi Rusty Spooner. But nice to see you. Zach needs ayahuasca plus mushrooms. He'll be all right. Yeah. Open his mind a little bit. Again, I don't care. Like, I don't judge people. You can do what you want. Again, as long as it's legal. But like, listen, I don't do mushrooms. I've had plenty of friends who've done mushrooms. I don't judge them for it. You do you. I can't judge you. And I've had people commenting on the stream like, oh, people who have to alter their mental status are weak. It's like you're weak for telling people what they have to do. Let people do what they do. So whatever. I'm not gonna get into all that stuff, but it's kind of ridiculous. You can tell people what they can do. Jets Forever said that. Okay. Jets Forever does not come in here. I've seen him when I've been on other streams. I think he was on Green Beans or Ryan's, whatever. I know he's known for some ridiculous takes, that's for sure. Joe, would you take issue with Rodgers coming to the Jets and not showing up until training camp? I mean, I get it. It's Rodgers, but he needs to show interest in going to mini camp and OTAs for chemistry. I'm not gonna like lose my shit, but it's not great. Like you have a guy who I think the MVP comments of a couple of weeks ago were a little bit overblown. He's talking about himself individually being able to win MVP versus Super Bowl, and people are blowing up a little bit too much. He's just talking about himself individually and what he feels like he can accomplish himself. I'm okay with that. But he doesn't necessarily have the best reputation, and then you're skipping minicamp and OTAs it's an offense he's familiar with, but he still has to get back into the offense. He has to learn what Garrett Wilson is, what Elijah Moore is, what they prefer, his offensive line, his coaches. So yeah, I don't think it's something that would completely turn me off from saying, no, I don't want that guy if he's not going to show up for OTAs. It's a turnoff though. I wouldn't be thrilled. I'd be lying if I said I would. I would be, but at that point, like we have Rodgers, so I'm not going to lose it. But yes, it would be a slight turnoff. I really think Lamar's still in the picture from Joe. The Ravens are too far off, and JD has a good connection with Baltimore. It's just you have to move mountains with the offense in terms of seeing if he even fits the offense, building offense around him. Is Hackett comfortable with that? The receivers, are those guys good for Lamar? It's not a perfect fit for me. And you're investing a lot of money into a lot of picks, so it better be a perfect fit. So the name is great, but I don't see it working out very, very well. Young Stench, haven't been in the chat for a while. What's up? Yeah, I haven't seen you in a little bit, but appreciate you being here. If we get anyone worse than Jimmy G, I'll be angry with Jimmy G in general, Nick. But that's like the bare minimum is Jimmy G Tannehill, and even then, I'm gonna have to really convince myself to be excited. Let's see. Tank for Williams in 20. The thing is, even if it's Jacoby Brissett, we're still gonna win 7, 8, 9 games. You're never gonna be in a position unless you're trading up. So Consider if we had a clutch QB in 09-10, Jets probably win Super Bowl. Sanchez was below average, and that's probably being a little bit generous. As with average play, we would have gotten it done. Then they had a running game. Yeah, no, he's not a good quarterback. And that's what people are saying, like, oh, he's better than Carr. That just shows me it's literally Google, okay, he's a better record than Carr or whatever, better playoff record, he's better. Which does not always correlate because there's plenty of examples of that not being, again, Foles better than Marino, right? Like, so X Mark, you love Addison, excellent route runner. Yeah, that's what I've heard, outside inside guy. But like, is it Hyatt? Is it almost Hyatt? Tennessee receiver is really fast. You have Jackson Smith, Ohio State. There's another guy, but from what I've looked at, and I don't trust a lot of guys draft stuff, and there's even things I'll disagree with guys about. But Daniel Jeremiah is pretty good, top 50. And looking at his top 50, a lot of the other receivers were primary slot guys, and I just don't see the Jets with Garrett Wilson who can play the slot well, with Elijah Moore who should be in the slot most of the time, drafting another slot guy. So you want a guy, if they were to draft one at 13, which I doubt in general, but still it's a possibility. I see it more as an Addison type guy. So I'm going to do him. Again, 3 offensive linemen. You guys tell me if there's anybody else that you guys want. But Rusty getting back in the draft. So Jordan Morgan, tackle from Arizona, kid's an underrated beast. Yeah, I'll get into a lot of that stuff. I will. Jets should trade 13 for Larry Tunsil. How do you fit that? Elias. It's he talking about $30 million, right? Ish a year. Paying a quarterback. How do they make that fit? Plus, they need that linebacker and safety. That'd be tough. That'd be tough to do. So I don't see it. I agree, Jalen Hurts is nothing special, but for the team is so loaded. I think Jalen Hurts is an above average quarterback. Do I think Jalen Hurts should be in the conversation? He's not, but is he? Like, you have the tier. You have Mahomes, to me, Mahomes, and other tiers. But you have Mahomes, you have the Burrows, and then you the Allens, the Herberts of the world, even the Rodgers of the world. And Hurts is almost lumped in with that second group, like in that 5 to 7 range. Is he that good? Maybe at times, but you're looking at a really good team around him. I think he's more a plus average quarterback who's being elevated by his team, which is fine. They're really great, but you put Hurts on a mid to bad team. I don't think he's nearly what he is now with the Eagles. And that's kind of obvious, almost. That's really obvious saying that, but people think he's amazing. I don't think so. I think he's solid, which is fine, solid. But I think put him with the Raiders last couple of years, or when Carr's been successful with the Raiders, he almost won MVP in 2018, and put Derek Carr on the Eagles this year. And people talk about, and I've seen this on Twitter, why, if he's so good, why was he benched? He wasn't benched because they legitimately thought that the backup quarterback would be better than Carr. It's because they're not moving forward with him, and he had an injury guarantee in his contract. So it wasn't benched because, he sucks and the number 2 is better than him. It's no, we don't want to move forward with him. We're not winning anything this year, so we're going to bench him to not, to hope for, to not have him be injured, and then we're stuck with him. So that's just, again, a very shallow argument. Joe Pacula, Kurt Keenan Allen might be a cat. Yeah. I think if the Jets are going to land, let's say it's a Rodgers, and you're talking about Rodgers for, I forget the cap stuff, but he's not making a lot this year or next year. Bring in a Keenan Allen, and you're talking about Keenan Allen, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson. Like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Now, how much does he want? I don't know. What is Keenan Allen going to make? That's the problem. Does he give the Jets a little bit of discount because he wants him in the Super Bowl? Hopefully, because we're talking about Christian Kirk getting $18, $19, $20 million a year. Zay Jones getting $12 million a year, whatever he got last year from the Jags. Keenan Allen, you're talking about $20 million, at 17, 18, 19, something like that, the minimum. Does it give the Jets a discount? It's on a 2-year, $30 million a year, or $30 million deal, $15 million per, maybe. But then past that, can the Jets make it work with, obviously, again, you need offensive line, you need linebacker, you need safety, etc. But I would be opposed to that. Happy thanking Joe just joined. Thank you for being on, brother. Appreciate you being here. Elijah and me, get it right. Yeah. Generally, we're pretty good here, but there's always 1, 2, 3 people who are saying some crazy stuff. Does anyone else feel the Elijah and me caused to have bad juju last year? Yeah, it's not great. The Jets won the game. That was the Packers game, and they won the Broncos game after, and then obviously stuff started going down from there. But it's a receiver thing. Like, receivers are known to do that, but still, I'm never going to excuse him putting that on Twitter. Like, at the end of the day, him being frustrated, him being used on the outside when he should be an inside guy, him being used too much vertical instead of crossing. I get all that stuff. I do. Him being the 3rd or 4th read in a 2-read offense, I get the frustration. Is there ever a reason to go out to Twitter and put it out on Twitter? No, there's not. It's not going to do anything for you. So it was immature to me, and I don't like it. But is he still a good receiver to me? Yes. So Darren says Aaron Rodgers is Jet. Again, there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke around the Raiders right now too. They're the betting favorites, even I think over the Packers right now. Maybe it's not over the Packers, but they're at the minimum number 2, heavily over the Jets right now. So Vegas usually knows something. And again, I think they're falling a little bit into the trap of Devontae Adams trolling a little bit, and then being in Vegas, and then Aaron Rodgers mentioning Vegas because they're in Vegas. I think they're falling into that a little bit, but still, it's definitely not a guarantee. Yeah, Whitehead 10 million. Yeah, that's a bad signing. And White Jet super fan for sure. He was always overpaid, and people thought he was a steal at $8 million a year, and I think literally, and I just my computer was lagging so bad I had to delete all the film I did from last year, pretty much. But you watch the review, I think 3 or 4 of the first 5 plays he's missing tackles. That first game against the Falcons with the Bucs in their 2021 season, he missed multiple tackles on Cordell Patterson. And I'm not talking about like tackles. Okay, it's Cordell Patterson. He's a savage. Like just taking terrible angles. I was like, uh-oh. And he's not great. In the pass game. That was an overpay from the jump. Whitehead, Tomlinson, Uzama, Barrios, all not good contracts. They're not. Now, Conklin, I think he's going to rebound the Jets fans. I can almost guarantee that, especially the better quarterback. But those guys last year were not great. So let's see. Internet is getting ugly. Mine. Jacoby Truba. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Would you move JFM inside more so we have more D tackles? In pass rushing situations, I would Jordan Victor, especially if they're cutting Lawson. You're cutting Lawson. Okay, you save $50 million. Obviously, that means that for guys like Bryce Huff, Clemens, JJ are playing more to the outside, which means that you would move JFM a little bit more inside as a rusher. Sure. And especially it depends on are they getting, not only no. Are they re-signing Rankins, too? But I think with the situation the Jets are in, that JFM plays more inside as a rusher than he did last year. I'm not saying primarily, but JFM made his money as an inside rusher. I think he's a decent to solid outside rusher, a very good run stuffer outside, but inside he's a very good pass rusher. So I want to see him use more there, and then use Huff more, use JJ more, and obviously to see what happens with Lawson. Is he cut? Is he renegotiated the contract? I think 2023 Lawson will be better than 2022 Lawson. So it's not saying that, I don't think he can necessarily live up to that contract, but at a certain point, how much you're going to invest in the defensive line when you have needs at linebacker, safety, offensive line, receiver, etc. So Young Moore's not a bust. He was. He's not a bust. Could the mentality, all that stuff, could he alienate himself, ask for a trade, and he's a bust because of that stuff? If you want to label it that, sure. But in terms of his talent, it's there. He's a talent. He's a talented receiver for sure. T. Rivera, what's your thought on adding a nose tackle? I believe that's what we need to be able to. And that's why last year when it was like Linval Joseph and all those guys, I wanted to sign Linval Joseph. I wanted to sign Sue because they were severely lacking, not only as a run stuffing guy who's 330, 340, whatever it may be, but also, Shepard had a few plays as a nice pass rusher, but they were severely lacking at their D tackle 3 and 4 in the run game. And obviously with the Jets and how they rotate their guys, which I'll never agree with. I don't like rotating out a whole entire group. But when you have Shepard and what's his face in there, Thomas, it was brutal. So even just upgrading from those guys, not necessarily just like a starting level Vita Vea nose tackle, but again, Linval Joseph type guy in the middle would have made a big difference to me. They need to get a big a nose tackle to stuff the run a little bit. And even Rankins too. Like Rankins is not a great run stuffer. He's better than he was. What is it called? Better as a run stuffer than he was in 2021. But at the end of the day, he was still not great. Super chat. Let's see, 706. I gotta scroll back to. Okay, let's see the super chat. RJ MacPot 720. $10 super chat. Appreciate that. How is this for a potential episode? 3-way debate between you, Carr, Ryan Rodgers, and Jake Assman and Lamar on which QB would worth going after. Jake said that he might give up a first and sauce for Lamar. I'm not trading Sauce for. There's no way. Not the first and Sauce. Sauce is worth easily 2 first-round draft picks. I'm not doing that. And the thing with that is like, yeah, good idea, RJ. And I'm not like I don't want to shoot it down necessarily, but the problem I don't really have a lot of involvement with Jake. And you put a couple of guys on a same platform who are like debating stuff. It can tend to get a little bit messy in terms of like somebody wanting to be the guy to be right with that. And typically for me, in terms of like the film stuff, I usually tend to talk about like film and that stuff. And I know Ryan's not that guy. I don't know if Jake is that type of guy. But I usually get into that. So when I have guests, it's usually like the only guest I've had in the last few years is Kyle, obviously, is the co-host. And then past that, I've really only had on Jamal Westerman, who played in the NFL, talk about film. Marcus Coleman played in the NFL, talking about film. Eric McMillan played in the NFL, talking about film. So I'll go on other shows, but in terms of like bringing people on to talk, it's something I usually don't do. Obviously, as you guys know, you follow the channel. I've never brought a guest on, minus Nani and Kyle Smith and other NFL players. It's a good idea. If somebody else was hosting it, sure, but I think I get a little messy, to be completely honest, in terms of somebody wanting to be the guy to be right. But in terms of those guys, I get Rodgers. I do. I get Lamar. Lamar has a lot of questions, though. Again, is he healthy? Does he fit the offense? Does the offensive line fit him? Do the receivers fit him? You're paying a guy $40 million a year to be to be more of a pocket passer, which is not why you should be paying $40 million a year. You want him to be making $40 million a year to be what he was in 2021 or whatever it was when he won MVP, or was it 2020 or whatever year that was when he won MVP, which he probably shouldn't have, in my opinion, to be completely honest, or he was in the running, whatever it was. But I'm not paying him to be something that he's not. Like, let's say he's $48 million a year. He's worth it for what he was the last couple of years, obviously minus the injuries. But he's maybe, if you don't want him to be that, maybe he's a $35 million a year quarterback. Maybe he's very solid, but not Lamar Jackson. So that's a lot. You're talking about a knee that might need reconstruction. You're talking about an offense that has questions that can even fit him. It's way too many questions to invest Sauce and a first round pick. I'm not sure if he said that, but I'm not doing that. That is for sure. So, Joe, I think Rodgers is staying in Green Bay and Carr. Ayahuasca. We can do ayahuasca together, Snoopy. I guess shroom something. I need something to get me over that. It's Jimmy G. It's Tannehill. I would say I prefer Tannehill to Jimmy G in terms of their play. But you're talking about Jimmy G, you don't have to invest capital in him in terms of trading him for draft picks and a contract. So the thing with Jimmy G though too is Jimmy G gets injured, you're almost going to guarantee he's going to get injured for a significant amount of time. Now, whether it be 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, whatever it is, he's going to get injured. Zach's not the backup. So you're bringing Mike White in, and then you're paying Jimmy G, I don't know, let's say $25 million a year, something like that. It's going to be something like that, maybe even a little bit more. $25 million a year for him. Mike White for 8. Zach, you're talking about a $40 million a year quarterback room for mid at best. If not, to me, I think Jimmy G is below mid. I do. I think he's more like that 18 to 20 range-ish, 18 to 22 type range. You take him away from Shanahan and considering the injuries. So I don't know. Zach Wilson got this. The fan base has been delusional for a while. The Sam Darnold stuff was brutal to argue too for months and months. But yeah, appreciate you, Rusty. The return of you gotta change it. The return of Rusty Sooner, because you weren't here for a couple months. I haven't seen you around, even on other streams when I've been on those. I haven't seen you. So, what's up, Rich? Give us Carr. Yeah, appreciate the comment too, Rich. I just read it today before I jumped on. The one you left about the last show, and I appreciate the support. Who will the Jets punter be in 2023? Not Brady Man. That's for sure. Let's see. Sauce will be a Jet for a decade plus. Yeah, you hope so, right? Now the problem is, and this is something I remember, like specifically going to a game, and I guess I was still getting into the Jets like die hard, because it was Revis. I think Revis, or no, maybe it wasn't Revis. It was Vilma. Was it Vilma? I think it was the mid 2000s, and Vilma was still like really good for the Jets. And I was with one of my best friends, not my best friend Tom, who's the reason I'm into the Jets. His dad, who I still go to the games with. If you guys have been to the games, you guys know those guys. And it was like their family member is an older dude. And I remember driving back to the game when we lost. He's like, oh, I can't wait for Vilma to be out of here because nobody wants to play with the Jets because they suck so bad. And my head was like, fuck, really? Like, is it? I'm sure I didn't say fuck. So I was like, 8 years old, but I was like, shit, like really? Like that's how the Jets are going to be. Like they're not going to sign their talent back because they're that bad. And I'm not necessarily saying Vilma to Sauce, but with that being said, like if we lose and we're running out Jacoby Brissett and all this stuff, is Sauce going to want to be here? You hope so. You hope he's a team guy like that. But let's be realistic. Like we all want the bleed green and all this stuff. But if you were on the Jets from 2015, 2016 to 2020, would you re-sign with the Jets? I don't think you would. I think you'd want somebody to do it, but you wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Let's be real. And again, obviously, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a guy making millions of dollars, $10 million a year and a first-round draft pick and, whatever. Like maybe it would be different. But like to me, if I'm losing a lot, I want to go win. That's at least my mindset. Maybe the Jets are offering a lot of money like they did to Avery Williams or CJ Mosley these days. But at the end of the day, I think I would personally want to win. And if I didn't have no connections to the Jets and the Jets were running themselves like a shitty organization, I wouldn't want to be here. Let's be real. I don't think any of us would. Maybe there's a few of you who would be like loyal to that team. I think people say that. I think a lot of people say that. I don't really mean that. So, Ryan said he would go up first and Sauce. All right. So I'm buddies with Ryan. I like Ryan a lot. I do. I promise to next time I'm on that show, I will shit on him for that. If he actually said that, I will ask. If he did, we're gonna have problems. I'm disappointed in Ryan. Ryan's too smart for that. I'm too smart for that. Jake didn't say that. Ryan said that. That's what people are saying. I don't know. But if it's Ryan or Jake, whoever it is, they should. That's disappointing from any one of them. Jake did not say. He said he would trade 3 1s before he traded Sauce. Okay, yeah. I would rather trade 3 1s before Sauce than a 1. I still don't think from where I sit right now, evaluating it from where I am, again, very far outside the situation, not knowing the knee, not knowing how he fits in the offense. I'm not doing it. I would rather go for Rodgers or Carr over Lamar. But now if you're talking about, okay, Carr is gone, Rodgers is gone, and now it's Lamar for 3 first-round draft picks, Jimmy G or Tannehill. Okay, fuck it. Let's just go for Lamar. That's assuming that Hackett could work with him. But again, I think you might be paying $48 million a year for a guy who might be injured a little bit, and a guy who's, again, $48 million for what he was a year or two ago, and you're making him more of a pocket guy in a West Coast offense, and he might be really worth $35 million a year. Sure, I'd rather do that than pay Jimmy G or trade for Tannehill, though. So at the end of the day, I like Lamar's talent, but you have to also factor in the injury and the cap to pour into them. Carr and Rodgers are still my 1 and 2 over Lamar, considering if you're saying 3 first-round draft picks, which it's probably going to be that, and if not more, and a fully guaranteed contract, which is what he's been talking about, which is concerning, obviously. And like you can get to the whole thing about NFL players risk their lives. It's not really their you risk your life driving to work. But realize it's their bodies, it's the CTE, it's the shortened lifespan, it's all that stuff. So they hurt their bodies. I don't think they necessarily risk their lives. But with that being said, it's hard to guarantee a guy a contract when there's a lot of injuries. I know that the MLB and the NBA are different and all that stuff, but I get it from both sides. I think there was a really good talk by a guy who played the NFL and talked about how shitty their system is after you retire. That's something I think the NFL should fix in terms of how shitty they treat their players with like health benefits and stuff afterwards. But guaranteed contracts, it's I don't know, it's hard. It's a really deep topic that I can't even wrap my mind around right now in the heat of the moment. But Rich says, all right, so I'll get shit for this, but all things considered, I think Carr gets the best chance to win a Super Bowl. More chances at it than Rodgers and additional talent. Yeah, I understand that. I do. The thing with Rodgers is that almost balances out, if not puts it to Rodgers in my favor, is Rodgers right now is a better quarterback than Carr, right? Okay, so 1 up. With that being said, Rodgers is also going to cost you less this year and next year, so you can actually get more. You could build more talent around him in terms of free agent and known guys. Now, Carr, we can argue, okay, you have the first and second round draft pick, sure. But you're talking about a first-round draft pick versus, a first-round draft pick with Carr or Rodgers and an extra $20 million to spend in free agency. You're talking about, again, this is a very broad way to look at this, but let's say Carr and Paris Johnson versus Aaron Rodgers and Keenan Allen adding to the team. So I think Rodgers over the next 2 years gives you the best chance to win. Now, obviously, the appeal of Carr is that, okay, you have years 3, 4, 5, 6. With that being said, the Jets, a lot of the reason that they're in contention for these quarterbacks and in the playoffs right now is because while it's not a quarterback who you have in a rookie contract, it's the Sauces, the Michael Carter II, the ABTs, the Quinn Williams, who is going to get paid this year. They have a lot of young talent who's not paid. So year 3, 4, 5, I see it as much less likely. I think the window is really the next 2-3 years max. So I think Rodgers has the better chance to win. In general, I get that Carr gives you a longer window to potentially hit that, but I would still say Super Bowl odds the next 5 years with Rodgers or Carr, it's still higher with Rodgers, even though I realize that years 3, 4, 5 will probably be dog shit than Carr the next couple of years. But with that being said, people go, oh, then you should definitely want Rodgers. In a vacuum, sure, yeah. Timelines. That's a thing. It's a timelines. So, let's see. Okay, Rocky IV. Dude, those movies, like, I used to love them when I was a kid, but they are some of the worst movies ever. Like, they're great, like nostalgia stuff, but that is some of the worst boxing you've ever seen in your life. Just let him hit me, I'm gonna hit him. It's almost. You guys have seen those slap fight things now, where they slap each other. You slap me, I slap you. That's pretty much what Rocky was. So a lot of boxing movies, like a lot of fighting movies suck. I like that one movie with the Octagon. The one guy was a teacher and he like fight his brother who's the guy who plays Bane. What's his name? The actor's name? That was a good one, I think. But then again, I don't know. When Rodgers come out of the darkness, will have a tan? Will he have a tan? Who are your top 5 quarterbacks you want from the Jets? Jesus, Afram. It depends on the cost and the timeline, really. Like, yeah, I want Rodgers over Carr, but based on the timeline, it's realistically Carr 1, Rodgers 2. If Lamar's out there, Lamar 3. I'll throw this guy into there, but I don't really think he's going to be there, so I'll say it. But it's a stipulation, or kind of with the background of saying I don't think it's really going to happen. Dak Prescott 4, but I don't think it's going to happen, so let's eliminate him. I would say Jimmy G 4 and Tannehill 5, and past that, fuck it, trade up in the draft. But it's Carr or Rodgers for me. I don't think Lamar is going anywhere. I don't. Jimmy G would be a massive disappointment, and so would Tannehill. So, okay. Ryan wanted Sauce. Ryan was convinced slightly on a stream by me of Sauce. He was in the range of like Sauce at 10, and then after a stream, that's when he started to get on the Sauce. Again, I'm just honest. Ryan was early on Sauce. The earliest people I saw on Sauce was me, Kyle, Scott Mason, and he has a writer, Kayla, who was early on Sauce as well. Those are the 4 OGs that I know of. Ryan was there. He had to be pushed over the edge. I remember those streams. Arguing about Thibodeau and all these guys. Thank God we drafted Sauce over Thibodeau, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people in here who are Thibodeau over Sauce. No way. Deion's more important. Thank God we drafted Sauce. People were like, oh, maybe I'll take him at 10. Okay. He'll last at 10. No way he gets drafted. Okay. All right. Sure. The problem is it's boom or bust with Rodgers. If he doesn't take us to the Super Bowl, they were paying the price for a couple of years after. Yeah, 100%. It's boom or bust. And I get the appeal with the consistency that Carr will be. But I still think that Rodgers gives you the better chance in that year or two. I think the real opportunity is to win the next 2 years anyway. So then in the next 2 years, it's Rodgers or Carr who Rodgers and Carr, regardless of who it is. It's 2023, 2024 is your best shot. 2025, 2026, it's going to be a little bit harder because all the contracts are going to pay. Trade 8 first-round draft picks for Justin Herbert, sure. Like realistically, if Herbert was available, what would you? And I don't want to get into this because it's almost hard to even, again, wrap your brain around it. But Herbert's available right now. What are you trading for him? Really? Like 8 first-round draft picks? You do it? Probably, right? Yeah, you do it. No, you do it. You do it. It'll never happen. But if you're talking about Rodgers for a first-round pick for a year, or maybe 2 first-round draft picks for 2 years, you're telling me you wouldn't trade a first-round draft pick every year for Herbert? Like, if 50% of those draft picks in the first round work out, one, that's a good hit rate, and 2, if it's Herbert and you're successful, they're lower first-round picks. You're trading. You look at and again, I'm not lumping in Joe Douglas because his draft has been good, but like just in Jets history, Darren Lee, Calvin Pryor, Muhammad Wilkerson, Kyle Wilson, Zach Wilson, all these guys. even if there was more hits, you're getting a first round pick every year for Herbert easily, and you're hoping Herbert would be here for 8 to 10 years. So yeah, you do that. Realistically, you do that. Like, I'm not sure if you're serious, but right now, 8 first round draft picks from 2023 to 2031. Okay, do it. You know, Hawk, I get that. You can argue about movies all day with some of that stuff. So some of it depends on what it's trying to be. I completely understand that. Like I used to like Fast and Furious to a point, and then when they started doing the crazy shit, like the Rock is on a car or on a tank, or whatever it was, going the opposite or going one way on a bridge, or it was The Rock or Vin Diesel. They're on a tank or whatever it is, going at 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, jump across a bridge, grab a girl in midair, land on a car that's probably going 70 miles per hour the other way, and then get up and walk away. It's like, bro, you basically just got hit by a car going 100 miles per hour and you're just fine. Like, come on. Tom Hardy movie title, Gladiator. Yeah, there you go. Gladiator. I didn't hear no bell. No bell. Oh, Carr. Yeah, I'm cool with Carr. Correction. Warrior. After you're fucking me up, bro. I think that was a decent movie, right? I'm not sure. That was what, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Joe, you and Kyle were also very early on Zach. You got. Oh, dude, 100%. Like, and that's the thing, Jordan, is one, I put my takes out there for people. The thing I will defend myself with Zach Wilson is if you go back and look at some of the articles, they interviewed like 20, 25 GMs, and I think 25, it was either 23, 24, 25 out of 25 GMs in the NFL had Zach as a number 2 quarterback. So it wasn't something that was outlandish. It's not like I was saying Trey Lance was the number 1 guy and they should have drafted Trey Lance. It's that was NFL consensus. That wasn't just me. That wasn't just Kyle. That was NFL beat writers, everything. Now, there was the others or some out there who wanted Fields, but realistically, NFL GMs and being pulled and all that stuff, Zach was the number 2 for most of the NFL, if not all of the NFL. It was Zach. So sure, and Zach's tape didn't translate, and it's why it's so hard. It's so hard to predict what a guy at BYU playing in front of no people is going to act like when he hits when shit hits the fan in New York with people tweeting at him that he sucks ass and they lost him a fantasy game. It's hard to predict. Zach was there mentally at BYU. He completely fell apart mentally with the Jets. You cannot predict that. The mechanics were not great at BYU, but he threw piss missiles consistently and was very, very accurate. He came to the Jets and he couldn't hit a swing pass. How do you predict that? The mechanics stayed pretty much the same. Maybe got a little bit worse with the Jets, but he's missing passes. He hit 10 times out of 10 at BYU, 9 times out of 10. He's deadly accurate at BYU. His processing was good at BYU. Came to the NFL and it just fell apart. It happens. There we go. Young Stench. I wanted to do that for. Yeah, it's I'm so glad we went Sauce. There's people out there who a year or 2 ago were saying, "Oh, Quinn Williams, you should have drafted this guy or this guy. You should have never drafted Quinn Williams at 2." Trust me, plenty of them. There's plenty of them out there who are now not admitting that they were like that. Even last year, prior to this year, saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have had Quinn Williams. You shouldn't have drafted him. He wasn't worth it." Now I'm pretty sure people are happy we drafted Quinn Williams, right? It's pretty fucking good. I don't know. So. Joe, if we don't do crazy trades in the draft, what positions do you want? Now, Rich, I'm going to answer this in this way. It depends on what we do in free agency right now. In general feel, I'd probably say offensive tackle, linebacker, safety. Now, which way, linebacker, safety, how does that go? I don't know. Again, it depends heavily on what they do in free agency, but I would say those 3 positions are the biggest needs. So. Do you think Rodgers' comments about Hackett hold, or I guess could be a smokescreen, and he really is hoping to reunite with Devontae? Why would he have the smokescreen? Like, that's the thing about that. Why would he doesn't need the smokescreen? Anybody? But yeah, he's not gonna come out there and talk shit about Hackett. He's like, "Oh, the guy sucks," whatever. Obviously, he had a good connection with him in Green Bay. Does he want to play with New York? I don't know. Does he want to play in Vegas? I don't know. I think the Jets have a better chance to win. I think that the Raiders have similar, if not better, offensive talent. Offensive line, minus the offensive line, but their defense is nowhere compared to the Jets, in my opinion. But I think better chance to win. It's New York. But talking about like, oh, he's worried about Tom Brady's retirement and stuff. Does he want to exactly follow what happened with Favre, pretty much? 38, 39 years old, going to the Jets, guy behind him in his 4th year or whatever it is. Does he want to follow that exactly? I don't know, but. I don't think why is it a smoke screen? That's the question about that. If you check the video from last draft, I said Sauce at 4 and Wilson at 10 on your stream, and Jake streamed. Jake said I was crazy. Sauce at 4 was he was my number 2 guy in the draft to Aiden Hutchinson. That's the truth. But Aiden Hutchinson was going to go, so it was always Sauce at 4 for me, and then I wanted the D end at 10. But obviously Wilson worked out, right? Like, worked out pretty well. You're talking about defensive rookie of the year, who should win offensive rookie of the year, and the offensive rookie of the year in the second round. And, JJ, who I would say was like a C+ this year. I don't think he was overly disappointing. I don't think he was amazing. But then again, how many snaps did he play? And he'll develop. And he was raw as a pass rusher. I said that from the jump to you guys. He was raw as a pass rusher at Florida State. And he was going to have 3 to 5 sacks in his rookie year. And I think he had 4, right? 3.5, 4, something like that. So that was something that was not hidden. People act like he was a dominant pass rusher at FSU. Was going to translate it. He was not. That was never true. Would you take on Hunter Renfrow contract to land Derek Carr in a trade? What is it? I don't know off the top of my head. What, $15, $16, $17 million a year? Would I take that to land Derek Carr? Yeah, sure. You cut Corey Davis, and you're basically, you minus Corey Davis, add Hunter Renfrow for $7 million a year. You have Hunter Renfrow, Elijah Moore, and the only thing with that is being completely transparent, like thinking about it as I'm talking. Renfrow is going to play the slot. Elijah Moore should play the slot. So that's not the best fit for me. But if it's going to take, hey, you have to absorb Renfrow over Davis, cut Davis for Carr. Okay, sure. I think you're kind of going to have to fit some square pegs and round holes on the offense for that, but still. So do we keep McGovern? I feel like he's not as bad as a large portion of Jets fan. Yeah, again, it depends. I think he's an average center at this point. Before I would say he was slightly above average. I think he's more average now. His end of the year was disappointing in the pass game. But the thing with this is it's easy to say, oh yeah, just replace him, but with who? And don't give me a guy second or third round in the draft. You're bringing Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to rely on a third round rookie who might not be there to be your starting center. So who in free agency is replacing McGovern? And from what I've seen in free agency, offensive line is pretty disappointing. So I would say he's back. I could understand a replacement. Now, there could be a guy in free, if McGovern wants $12 million and this guy, Joe Davis, from wherever wants $8 million, he's just as good. Okay, sign Joe Davis. Again, I'm making up the name. I don't know who the hell's out there really. But I think it's easy to say replace him and then people don't really have a legitimate replacement for him. Oh, draft this guy in the third round. Okay, who says he's going to be there? Who to say he doesn't fail medical? Who to say he doesn't get caught beating up his girlfriend? I don't know. So, especially if you vet quarterback, that fourth round rookie, he'll work out. Yeah, sure. Okay. I like his interview. He's going to work out. Okay. With his highlights. Yeah, 5-minute highlight tape. Yep. He's going to work out. So, did that for, see if people can admit it. I wanted Zach Wilson. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, see, that's the problem. That's the problem with that. But with that being said, you're saying, okay, well, you have to absorb that and figure that out, or get Jimmy G. Okay, we'll figure out Renfrow and his fit in the offense. Draft the center. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's a lot easier said than done. What if you again, guy X in round 2, he's gone. Oh shit. We like guy Y in round 3. Oh shit, he's gone. Fuck. Okay, well now who are we getting? I don't know, some $4 million free agent who sucks. I think that you could. To me, I rather splurge at offensive line, whatever offense in general, and save the crapshoot shit for the defense. Okay, well, we signed Quan, and now Sherwood's our starting linebacker going to the draft, and we're hoping for again Joe Davis in round 2 at linebacker. Oh, he's gone. Okay, well then guess what? There's going to be some bargain bin guys in free agency for $2-3 million in June or July. Do not fuck around with offense, especially if you're bringing in one of these bigger quarterback names. You don't want to fuck around with the offensive line. Bring in proven guys, and McGovern to me is a proven decent center, which is more than you can say for anybody, even in the first, second, third, fourth round, fifth round, whatever it may be. McGovern will be decent. And now, can you draft the guy in the second, third round into your guy to develop behind McGovern? You cut McGovern next year, sure, but you're saying, a third round guy's going to start. I can't do that. It doesn't look NFL ready. Joe Davis, he probably actually exists. How do you feel about acquiring Allen Lazard? It's about the price. I've heard a rumor floated out there that he's going to demand $15 million a year. If that's the case, no fucking way. I'd rather have Corey Davis for 10.5. But if you're talking about him costing 10, 11, 12, and Rodgers is here, and you want that familiarity, you want a big body, 6'5" guy, okay, cool. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him for about Corey Davis's price. But you're talking about $15, $16 million a year for Lazard, which you get people like, oh, no way. Zay Jones did nothing before last year, pretty much. He got 12. Christian Kirk was okay. He got 20, whatever it is. So I could easily see a world. I'm not going to guarantee it. I could easily see a world where Allen Lazard is costing you $15 million a year, $14 million a year, which is ridiculous to me. I would never do that. But for a reasonable price, yeah, sure. Why not? Is he something to write home about as a starting receiver? No. With that being said, if he's your number 3 in terms of targets for receivers, okay, cool with that. If it's Rodgers, much more cool if it's Derek Carr. So, yeah, Hawk, I completely agree with you here. If we don't sign McGovern, we're putting a question mark in front of Rodgers, and then going to want a rookie center. O-line needs to I completely agree with you. I think he's average. But I think it's like not necessarily the cool thing, but I think people fall into, he's either shit or he's really good. He's average. 15th, 16th best center in the league. Okay, cool. Maybe some good games. He's 12th, 13th. I think he's, for a large portion of the Jets' career, he was slightly above average. But last year he dipped down a little bit to average. But again, like, who are free agent centers available? Drop some names, because I don't think the Eagles should go into the draft and say, I hope that guy's available in round 3. Pretty stupid. I think Aaron Rodgers would be pretty pissed at you. Derek Carr would be pretty pissed at you. So give me the replacement center in free agency. If there's guys out there, then sure, it's a conversation. But I haven't heard much. I think you're talking about Keenan Allen, not Keenan Cole, because I don't think Keenan Cole's a guy. I think Keenan Cole is a guy. Much different players. Why to me, the Bengals most likely find a way to make it work with T. Higgins. I don't think they just let him walk. And what is he going to want? You're talking about, I think him, and he's a guy who I was wrong on in the draft. I didn't think he was worth a high second round pick. Again, it's fine to be wrong, as long as you admit it. But you're talking about a 1A, 1B situation there in Cincy. He's going to want $20 to $25 million a year easily, in my opinion, at least in that range. Do you have enough money to do that while signing Q, while getting a quarterback, while getting a linebacker, while getting a safety, while signing 2-3 defensive linemen just to field the team? I don't know. I don't think this is the smartest allocation of resources. Would I love him on the Jets? Sure. But you'd suffer other places. I'd rather spend that money elsewhere and get some mid-level starters to round out the team than splurge at receiver and have 2 superstars but have nobody blocking for their quarterback to throw the ball to him. Keenan Allen, I think it's much more reasonable because he's older and he'll cost less, maybe 16, 17, where T. Higgins is going to cost you 24. And why are the Bengals giving up on T. Higgins? They have something good working there, obviously. I missed NY Bullied Super Chat. I apologize. I will find that. I thought I got all of them. NY Bully. Okay, I apologize, NY Bully. Thank you for reminding me. My fault. If you were Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas and Carr, Rodgers and Carr weren't available, who's the QB that you'd sign to save your job? Chances we sign AR. If they weren't available, sign. Obviously, I'm going to mix that into acquire. Who's a quarterback you'd acquire? Lamar Jackson. Is he realistic? No, probably not. Past that, I would say Jimmy G over Tannehill because you have to trade to get him. After Jimmy G, it's Tannehill. And again, dark horse, Dak Prescott, if he renegotiates the contract, whatever that may be. But I would say past that, it's Tannehill or Jimmy G. I think they win you 9-10 games, but I think you're going to be in purgatory. I think you're going to be a team who can get to the wild card and maybe divisional, but you're never really going to get there. I know some people feel like that with Carr, but I'm on a different. I think of Carr as a better guy than those guys. So chances we sign AR in terms of like percentage wise, you're factoring in him just retiring. You're factoring the Packers. You're factoring the Raiders. I would say if I really had to put my money to it, let's just go. Let's split it. Let's go 33%. 33% chance, 1 in 3% chance, which I think is fine. Even if you were to say a high percent chance, which is 50, which is again him over retirement or Rodgers Jets over retirement, over the Raiders, over the Packers, 50% chance is a great chance to get him. And that's probably that I think that's realistically probably too high or definitely too high. But is a 50% chance at Rodgers going to steer you off of Derek Carr? Not to me, 50% chance. That's too big of a risk to say, okay, let's Jimmy G next year running out of the tunnel for the Jets. And that offense is announced. I can't do that. I would say 33% chance, probably realistically probably 20-25% chance, which is a good chance. But again, Packers, retirement, Raiders. I think retirement's probably like a 5% chance, but Packers is a good chance. He just stays, and the Raiders is obviously even a better chance than the Jets at this point, based on betting odds. So I apologize for missing that though. I do appreciate it though. What would it cost to acquire T. Higgins? Still, dude, you're talking at least a first round draft pick, the minimum. I'm not sure if it's 13, but you're talking at least a first round pick and more, a first and a third, a first. He's number one wide receiver. He's really, really good. You're at minimum a first and a massive contract. The Jets won't do that. I think we all know that, but I think we all know that. See, Patterson, Schmitz, Stromberg, all solid centers better than McGovern, but like, how do you know they're better than McGovern? Because of what? And I'm not trying to be a dick here, but because of a scout report, because of YouTube highlights, because of what Dan Jeremiah said, because of what Draft Network said, because of what? Because there's plenty of guys, so you can say that from year 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Guarantee this guy's going to be better than McGovern. Garrett Bradbury, generational center, athletic, NC State. He's not as good as McGovern. He's bad right now. So who's to say that a guy in the second, third round is guaranteed to be better? That's you must be, and again, that's maybe but you're smarter than a lot of NFL GMs out there, because if you can guarantee these guys are all going to be better than McGovern, all these guys are going to be in the first or second round. You can't guarantee anything in the draft. I'm pretty sure people guaranteed that Kevin White or Darius Hayward Bay or Becton or whoever's going to work out in their top 10, 12 picks, 15 picks. Now we're talking about guys in the second, third round being solid centers better than McGovern. There's no way. Pierre Rivera talked about this before. Joe Capspace is not real. The Saints are going to feel it in the next couple of years. You can push the can down the road, push it down the road all you want, but there's a reason they traded Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for a fifth, sixth round pick last year, because they had to get rid of cap space just to make it work. They're $60 million over the cap right now. If they cut pretty much everybody, they're still going to be like $40 million over the cap and have to trade a lot of guys. It's going to hit them. Now it's faker. It's somewhat fake, but it's not. You can't just keep dodging it. They're going to be really, really shitty team in a couple of years, if not this year. So, guys, drop a like real quick. I appreciate that, because I watch college games. Okay, yeah. It's fine. So does a lot of people. So do NFL GMs. So do the Draft Network guys. So do a lot of people. But there's nobody you've ever missed on. And again, I'm not. You could fine, but have you never missed on a guy? If your hit rate is 100%, then I trust you. But I severely doubt it is. If you're picking out guys in the second, third, fourth round who are going to be at least NFL starters at 100% hit rate, the Jets need to find you and hire you. But yeah, cap doesn't exist. It does. It's they're going to be dumping a lot of guys. Again, you could push it down the road 4 or 5 years. It's okay. But I think Michael Thomas is going to cost them. And I saw this on Twitter, so this could be 1,000% false because it's Twitter. I think his cap hit for next year for the Saints is almost $16 million, Michael Thomas, from all the shit they've had to push down the road. Nonetheless, I appreciate all you guys. I will see you next Thursday with Kyle Smith. And then past that, be on the lookout for the podcast with Buffalo Jets fan, which we'll be doing, which should be fun. But I will see you guys soon. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Don't drink and drive. Get Uber. If you get DWI at this point, you're an idiot. It's just, there's an app. You can just click a button and it rides there. But nonetheless, I will see you guys soon. JoeRB31 on Twitter. And I'll put out a bunch of reviews of some of these draft prospects and some of the other Jets players in free agency, etc. But